Good afternoon to you all, and thank you for joining us today for the post-ESA Council media briefing. I'm Sophie Bradel, the head of the communication department of ESA, and I'm here with Dr. Josef Aschbacher, the Director General of ESA, Renato Krpoun, Chair of the ESA Council, and most of our ESA directors. As always, we will start with preliminary statement from the chair of the council and from the DG, and upon the conclusion of these opening remarks, we will take your questions. When we will start the question part, please indicate on WebEx or the WhatsApp loops that you wish to ask a question. And I would also kindly ask you to state your name and media outlet before your question. The replay will be available on the website within an hour or two. And now I give the floor to Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Anne-Sophie, and also from my side, good afternoon to those in the room and those watching remotely for this post-council media information. Now, let me start first with the comment that we're starting to initiate we're already in the middle of the preparation process for CM25. We also have indicated or announced last year the continuous improvement and transformation processes within ESA. And here I wish to highlight that one of the first elements, an important element, the Independent Program Management Authority was presented. The first results were presented to Council, which showed very good results and will help us to improve the program propositions and strengthen them towards the CM25. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank Council for the re-election, for my re-election for a period of 1 year. So the chair, myself, the vice chair, Frank Monteni, and vice chair, Juan Carlos Cortes, have been confirmed for another year, as well as the chairs and vice chairs of the subordinate bodies. Now, if we go to more content on the content of the discussions we had these 3 days here in Paris. One of them was Strategy 2040, which DG and his team presented to the member states. I'm happy to announce that we were able to finalize it, and I have asked the DG to implement it. Strategy 2040 aligns ESA's goals with the evolving societal demands, technological advancements, and geopolitical shifts. It will provide us a roadmap for decision-making, programmatic implementation, and long-term investment planning to maintain Europe's leadership in science, technology, and international cooperation in space. The 5 overarching goals include protecting our planet and climate, advancing space science and exploration, strengthening European autonomy and resilience, boosting economic growth and competitiveness, as well as inspiring future generations. So Strategy 2040 will ensure a coherence between CM25 and 28, and it will require strong collaboration among ESA member states, together with the European Union, industry, academia, and the financial sector. And with that, I hand back over to Anne-Sophie. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I leave now the floor to Dr. Josef Aschbacher.
Thank you, Anne-Sophie, and thank you, Renato. Congratulations for the renewal of your chairship and also the vice chairships and the chairships of the subordinate bodies. Very happy to see this continuity and really glad to continue working with you and the other chairs and vice chairs of the different bodies. So on my side, so also very glad, as the chair was just highlighting, we have adopted the ESA 2040 strategy. This was a very important step because it really provides a stable long-term vision and strategy for the European Space Agency for the decades to come. And I have presented to my member states, as I always do, what ESA has been delivering over the last couple of months. And I would also mention some of these headlines which the chair has just mentioned, and in which context these deliverables are to be seen. So ESA delivers. This is exactly what is the hallmark of European Space Agency. I had a few highlights to mention again to our council delegates of the last couple of months. Let me start with the first commercial launch of Ariane 6 on the 6th of March. Of course, all of you recall the inaugural flight in the 9th of July last year, but the first commercial launch took place a couple of days ago on the 6th of March with a very precious payload, the CSO satellite. Many of you have reported, but also I would like to underline that this is really guaranteeing European autonomous access to space. The launch itself was really flawless. We had all the elements functioning very well, including the APU and Da Vinci reignitions, which some of you have really reported in detail. So really, this is strengthening Europe's independence and resilience, one of the chapters, one of the goals of the ESA 2040 strategy. Other highlights I reported was the biomass satellite has arrived in French Guiana on the 10th of March. It is being prepared right now for liftoff on Vega C at the end of April. Biomass, as you know, will study the Earth's forests, especially the carbon stocks and fluxes in mid-latitudes, but also in higher latitudes with a very powerful P-band radar, something that is extremely important. This is a parameter that is not so well known, especially in the tropical areas, and therefore extremely important to understand better the carbon cycle of our planet. Again, this falls under the goal of ESA 2040 strategy, which is called Protecting Our Planet and Climate. We also had the opening of the Space HPC high-performance computer. There was an inauguration ceremony on the 12th of March. We have been presented with very, very impressive models and first cases that have been analyzed from Earth observation, from science, from operations to provide digital models of different situations. This HPC is the first space HPC in Europe. It will be available, of course, for the usage by my ESA team, but also we would like to offer opportunities to SMEs and companies across Europe, which I think is a new element and therefore a very important one. Another highlight of recently was Hera, which is now, as you know, en route flying to Dimorphos. It performed on the 12th and 13th of March a Mars gravity assist flyby, which was important to bring it on its trajectory to Dimorphos, where it is on the way. Again, Hera is a very critical step in Europe's planetary defense. It falls under the goal of ESA 2040 strategy, protecting our planet and climate, and also inspiring future generations.
Talking about inspiring future generation, I would like to propose a short experiment. We're actually going to have a conversation with our ESA colleague in deep space, Ira, and the Director General is going to ask Ira some question.
Yes, this. We're just waiting for the readiness of our deep space colleague. So Hera, I'm calling you from Paris. Can I ask how you are?
Hello from space, Paris. I'm thrilled to update you on my mission. I've recently completed a fascinating Mars flyby, including a close look at the moon Deimos. Check out this video breakdown of my journey, including a Mars flyby and the upcoming exploration of the Didymos system. It's all about science, space travel, and planetary defense.
Hera, let me interrupt you here and tell me a bit, why did you fly by Mars?
I flew by Mars for a gravity assist, a clever maneuver that uses the planet's gravity to adjust my trajectory and speed. This helps me efficiently reach my next destination, the Didymos binary asteroid system. Plus, it allowed me to observe Mars and its moon Deimos up close.
Very impressive. Sorry if I keep interrupting you, but I have another question. Tell us a joke about Mars.
Oh, here's a good one. Why did Mars break up with Venus? Because Mars needed space. And just between us, I thought I saw an alien on Mars. It was just the rover playing tricks.
It's
Mars,
That's a very nice one. Tell us, what's the surrounding around you? What's the temperature which you have when you fly there, and what is the environment looking like?
During my Mars flyby, the temperatures around my components were quite chilly. For example, one of my solar array drive mechanisms had an average temperature of about -20 degrees Celsius. As for the environment, it's the vastness of space, with Mars looming close, a stunning red planet with its thin atmosphere and rocky surface. It's a beautiful and mysterious place to explore.
So thank you, Hera. We come back to you, but we really enjoyed this conversation. Have a good trip.
I've had a blast chatting with you. Feel free to reach out anytime.
We will for sure. Thank you so much. So let me go back to the. So keeps talking. So let me get back to the press briefing. So as you see, this is really one of our highlights, and talking to our ESA member out in deep space is quite exciting. But let me talk about planetary defense back again here in the room of Paris. So all of you have heard and reported about asteroid 2024 YR4. This was the first time that the United Nations activated the two asteroid response groups that are in place. One is called the International Asteroid Warning Network, and the other one is the Space Mission Planning Advisory Group. One is headed by NASA, the other one is headed by ESA. And you have seen in your press reports about the probabilities of the mission or the asteroid hitting planet Earth. We keep, of course, following it very closely, but as you have seen also, the probability has really come down to a very, very low level. Back to some other news. Just yesterday, on the 19th of March, we had two very important firsts in the Science Directorate. One of the firsts was that the member state delegates traveled to Saturn's moon Enceladus with virtual reality goggles, and this was quite an experience, I can tell you, but it was, of course, a virtual impression of how such a mission could look like. And I can say delegates really appreciate it. Having here the chair of the delegations, I know that this was quite a nice experience of reporting a bit of, in a visionary manner, of what we could be doing. Another first was the release of the first data from Euclid's 6-year survey cycle. As you have already reported, and I've seen many news reports, many thanks for the excellent science reporting which I saw. Euclid has scouted out the 3 areas in the sky where it will eventually provide the deepest observations of its mission. Some of the standout results are that the first detailed catalog of more than 380,000 galaxies and the first catalog of 500 galaxy strong lenses have been shown or have been distributed. They were created using AI algorithms, talking of Hera out in space, of AI algorithms which were trained thanks to the collective effort of almost 10,000 human volunteers. And this really shows, again, referring to our ESA strategy, some of the elements inspiring future generations, but also advancing space science and exploration. Some other reports I made is the update on the European Launcher Challenge. We had a quite important debate on the future of launchers. The ITT, the invitation to tender, will go out next week, and it will, of course, prepare the ground for the smaller launchers, micro launchers, mini launchers to become part of this challenge. And we do sincerely hope to see some of the first of these new launchers being launched very soon. This is certainly falling within our ESA Strategy 2040 goal, which is boosting economic growth and competitiveness, but also increasing our independence and resilience. Some other updates from Council. We have approved, or Council has approved, a number of cooperation agreements to strengthen our collaboration with international partners. Notably, with JAXA, we have agreed and we have signed on the margins of Council a statement of intent strengthening the ties between the two agencies and in the field of human and robotic exploration. We have also agreed on an extension of an agreement between ESA and JAXA on the use of synthetic Aperture radars, so in particular, of course, for Earth science and Earth applications. There we have a long-standing agreement, and this cooperation using on our side Sentinel-1 data with JAXA's PALSA-2 data is a very fruitful one and has yielded to many results from a science and applications perspective. Also, a framework agreement between ESA and JAXA for a strategic partnership on climate action has been approved, which focuses on greenhouse gases. This is also one of the elements that was mentioned in the statement of intent for new big corporations with JAXA, which I signed in November last year in Tokyo. Further, we have approved the extension of an agreement between ESA and Brazil concerning space cooperation for peaceful purposes. With Brazil, we have actually a very long-standing partnership. It goes back to 1977, and the current agreement was extended by 10 years, starting from May 2025. It covers a number of topics, some of them related to climate monitoring, and using both Brazilian and European technologies and data in order to do that. A memorandum of understanding between the African Union and ESA has been adopted concerning space cooperation. This MOU aims at fostering synergies between the African Union and ESA and implements some joint activities, in particular in relation of the respective contribution agreement with the EU-Africa Partnership Program. Also, we had an update of the space economy report, which was putting some figures on the table on how the space economy develops and how Europe compares to the rest of the world. For example, some of these figures have shown that Europe is a very important, a very attractive partner, but also that our contributions in economic terms are relatively small compared to, for example, the United States. And let me just quote some of the figures to show that. In Europe, we have, I would say, a per capita spending on space of about 26 euro per citizens. These are fresh figures from 2024, which is 8 times less than in the United States. And it is also, interestingly, 2 times less than those figures compared with Japan. Also, the space budgets as part of the global total have slightly dropped in the last couple of years. And this is something that, of course, is a message for our decision makers and politicians to see where and how Europe positions itself. And therefore, the ministerial conference at the end of the year is a decisive moment to make sure that Europe is keeping to invest, that Europe is increasing its investment in order to have a resilient, strong, independent autonomy for its member states. With this, I would like to close this short reporting and look forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General. And now we open the floor to questions. We have some questions about whether the Strategy 2040 documents will be publicly released. Yes, indeed. Actually, you should have already received a link with the documents already. And I take the, maybe someone, yes, please.
Ángel Calvo from the Spanish press news agency EFE. Can you say us what have you decided, if you have decided something, to reinforce the autonomy of Europe, especially in the space of defense, which is an actuality, or what is included in your strategy to 2040?
Well, thank you for this question. In fact, one point, and you will read it in detail in the strategy, it has one chapter that literally says that Europe will aim at reinforcing its resilience, its strength, and its independence. And this has many facets. It goes from launches all the way to technologies and different capabilities. But this is the medium to long-term prospect that we have planned. We did have indeed a long discussion on, especially based on the call it the geopolitical aspects that are requiring Europe to be stronger and also more independent. but these are discussions that have been done with the member states and which will lead into decisions and the future preparation of the ministerial package. I can only say that in some of these elements we plan to prepare for these decisions through early studies in order to scope and to see what is required to strengthen Europe and make Europe more autonomous or more independent. On the other side, there may be requirements for new elements in the ministerial package or reorientations of the ministerial package. One request that was coming from member states in particular is to see how we can increase the resilience in Earth observation in order to increase the number of observations through very high resolution satellites, for example, linked obviously with artificial intelligence, edge computing, automated pattern recognition, but also with secure communication as a backbone, and see how such a system could eventually be gradually be built up with, of course, work to be first initiated to see what is needed, and then decisions to be made at the ministerial conference. So yes, we had a discussion, but decisions will be made at the ministerial conference in November, at the end of this year.
Thank you. A question from Peter Deselding online. Please, Peter, can you turn your microphone on, please? Peter, can you hear us?
Now, okay.
Yes, indeed.
Hi, thanks very much. Sorry for the delay. Joseph, I have a general question about CMIN 25. There are a lot of puts and takes coming from the different member states in the last couple of months alone, in the last couple of weeks alone, even. Different messages coming from, say, Spain as opposed to Germany, UK as opposed to Italy, that sort of thing. I'm not sure how you put all this into a soup for CMIN 2025, but I believe you had planned to give a summary of your CMIN 2025 proposals to Council this week. And if that did occur, what did you tell them? How much detail can we have about that? And how much is that likely to be revised between now and November, given what we're seeing on the headlines just about every day about security and sovereignty? Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Of course, you can imagine that this is a topic of discussion, and yes, we have reflected on this. This was certainly a part of, I would say, the informal discussions. Also, the question just before whether any decisions were made. No, the decisions will be made at the ministerial in November. But it is clear, and this is really what the member states have been asking us to do. Of course, this is now work in progress, but they really have asked us to look in detail on some of the elements where the existing package may need to be reinforced or may need to be readjusted in order to better respond to the current situation. And at the same time, as I said before, see whether there are new elements that might need to be put on the table, which have not been in the package before. I mentioned just before this an activity that we are planning to prepare on increasing the resilience for Europe. This is a request I got from a number of member states, and of course we will now start with the usual documentation to prepare this, the negotiations, the discussions in order to see what size and what dimension this will have. But it's absolutely clear that yes, we are responding. We have certainly had a very clear guidance from the member states, and ESA is found as a very good mechanism, a very flexible mechanism that can respond very dynamically to the situation. And as you know very well from many other programs, the convention allows us a lot of flexibility to work with countries and be very fast in responding to current situations. It's too early to say what this is because all this needs to be defined, decided, prepared, but I can assure you we are on top of it.
Thank you. A question from Dr. Emma Gatti online.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Good morning, good afternoon, Josef. Good afternoon, Anne-Sophie. I guess I have a question regarding ESA's agenda when it comes to climate, planet, and the Artemis program, in particular in relation with the geopolitical situation in the United States. At the moment, some department and NASA strictly connected with moon exploration have been closed. The political agenda of the United States is changing. So I guess I want to understand what's ESA official position when it comes to our partnership with the US, especially when it comes to moon exploration and the Artemis program. Thank you.
No, thank you. Of course, a very topical domain, as you can imagine, but let me just make two things clear. On climate, which is linked to Earth observation, we have a pretty robust program. We have some interactions with the United States, but there I would say the exposure, if I may call it this way, is modest, and is certainly, I would say, manageable. Of course, you mentioned Artemis and exploration. There we have a very deep cooperation with the United States, but it was also crystal clear that we have a standing cooperation agreement. It's a very long-standing agreement which we have, spanning several decades of extremely fruitful and constructive cooperations, and for the benefit of both sides. The United States is benefiting from contribution of the European Space Agency and vice versa. Europe is benefiting from contributing elements of the United States. So we have this cooperation in place. We have not received any notification that this will not be required. So we are delivering. We are preparing our elements of this cooperation as planned. And this is certainly what I would like to reinforce. We've not yet formally discussed, obviously, with the new administrator. Is not yet confirmed, but it is crystal clear that I will, when the first meeting takes place, reassure our American friends and partners that we have a strong, good cooperation, which is to the benefit of both parties. And yes, Europe will continue to deliver as we have always done.
Thank you. There's a question online from Robert Hall, Aviation Week. On the European Launcher Challenge ITT, how quickly do you plan to go on contract?
Yeah, the European Launcher Challenge, I'm just looking at Tony is here with us. Just one comment on my side. The ITT, as I mentioned, will go out next week. Then, of course, after that, the companies will respond. But we plan to have an evaluation mid of this year of identifying who are within the frame of the ELC, the ones selected. And then, of course, this will be brought towards the ministerial for funding. But I'd like Tony to provide a few more details.
I think you provided all the details. I'll just add that to ask the precise question, when will the contracts be placed? And that will only be after the ministerial, when we have the subscriptions according to a fair contribution scheme. So we have no geographical return constraints on this undertaking. Thank you.
Is there a question from the room? No. I don't have additional question online. I give you a couple of minutes to maybe ask the last question. Apparently, we don't have additional questions, so there is? Okay, thank you. We have a question from Julio Marvols. What about the European astronauts as far as the ISS is planned to be closed next 2030?
Just looking whether Daniel is here, but no. So what we have, just similar as I replied before to Peter, we have an agreement in place with NASA where we provide European contributions. And in exchange, we get flights through a partner agreement of our astronauts to the space station. As you know, we have selected 5 career astronauts. 2 of them are being in training right now for flights planned next year, and the other ones will be trained as accordingly as the flight schedule requires it. So our baseline assumption is yes, we have the ISS available for the next couple of years, and yes, the plan is, I reaffirm us, and of course under this condition, that ESA plans to have flight opportunities for our new career astronauts, I should say, the ones of the 2022 selection, by the end of this decade.
Thank you. I look at the team to know whether there is no additional question. Sorry, Stefan, go ahead.
Yes, just to be sure about the European Launcher Challenge. So the contracts will come after the CM, but the selection will come before to be able to compute the fair return, the geographical return. Or to understand this.
Okay, so what will happen is we go out with the ITT now. 6 weeks after the publication, we will receive proposals. We will evaluate them and see who are eligible. We need solid proposals, technically, business plan, financially. There's co-financing in these contracts. Then we will have a bouquet of eligible companies, and we will enter into a dialogue with member states, and we will prepare based on these proposals, program proposals to be subscribed at CM25 in November. And so that these proposals will have the geo return that the companies have defined themselves, so that we will request funding according to geo return in the proposals. And then we place the contract after the subscription at the CM25.
Thank you, Tony. There's one question. Okay, we have a question from Daniel Chrétien, Futura Science. What about Andreas Mogensen? How is he going since the wide verbal discussion with Elon Musk on X about the fate of astronauts Sunita Williams and Bunch Wilmore?
I can reassure you that Andy is doing very well. Thank you.
I think there is no further question, neither from the room nor online. Peter de Selding wants to ask an additional question. Please, Peter. Me to say it for you, maybe? Has ESA reviewed the proposed EU Space Act and have been given the chance to offer inputs before it is published?
We do not, thank you, Peter. We do not have the text of the Space Act. This is a document that, as you know, the Commission has been very careful not to disseminate. We have had several meetings to see smaller passages of it, but I think it's too early to comment on it without seeing the overall text. That means really the whole text from beginning to the end, because if you only see a snapshot of one chapter or one article or a few articles, this is certainly difficult to interpret of what and how this is to be seen in the overall context. But yes, we look forward to that. Our member states have also asked us to evaluate and to assess the text once it's being published. We will do so, and I'm very hopeful that this will be good and constructive to make Europe stronger in space.
Thank you very much. I think we're done now with the questions. So I would like to thank you again, remind you that the replay of this session will be available very soon, in an hour or so, on our website. I thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director General. Thank you to our directors, and wish you a very good end of the day.